I'm Rob Franzese, in case we haven't met yet. I'm the Director of the Program in International and Comparative Studies. And you guys are here to hear a bit about the honors program and what it might involve, right? We do honors theses across all of the sub-plans, so everyone's welcome here. So I thought I'll just give you the outline of both the logistical details and the logistical procedures and the content of the thesis writing, the honors program courses, and what you do in writing your thesis. So come on in. We started a little early by Michigan time. So so two things are two websites, which if you haven't explored them yet, you should to get the background. One is the PICS Honors Program website, which you can find, let's see, it looks like from home, click on Academics, then click on Honors Program. We'll get you to that one. And that has the same information I'm going to give here, and I'll give a little bit more. And then the other relevant information is the LS&A senior thesis. This turns out to be hard to find. I don't know if you'll have the same experience I did in terms of it being hard to find, because we also have, the College of LS&A also has the honors program, which is a 4-year degree program in the Honors College. That's distinct from a senior honors thesis, which is the thing in which you're participating or thinking about participating. And so that website appears to be LS&A home, then LSA students, then academics and requirements, then LS&A degrees and requirements, then majors, then honors plan. Or try searching LS&A senior thesis. That's what worked for me, and kind of get there. And that's because the college has its requirements and procedures for the honors as granted from the college, and each of the departments that offer honors programs have their own procedures. And the college rules would trump ours if there's any disagreement, but we've written ours so as not to disagree. So we might have additional requirements or other procedures. So, so what do you need to know? So one thing, so another thing to note, I think, in terms of preliminaries, is that so the senior honors thesis is distinct from the level of distinction that also appears on your transcript when you graduate. So the level of distinction has to do with your GPA and your GPA only. So there's if you have a certain GPA, you graduate with distinction or with great distinction, etc. Separately from that is graduating with honors, with high honors, or highest honors. Those are from the senior's honors thesis, so you know that there's something distinct there. So, okay, so to do an honors thesis, the requirements are a GPA of 3.4, overall GPA of 3.4 or better, and specifically for PICS, B+ or better in 101. And then if you want to write a thesis, if you decide you want to write an honors thesis, then you would take the thesis writing seminar, which is 498 and 499. And I'll return to that in a second to give you a bit about the content and how that works in terms of its graded course and credits that you get for that course. So, but I'll return to that in a second. So if you decide you want to do a thesis, the first step, I think, is, well, first step is to make that decision. Second step is to think about what you might want to write your thesis on, or maybe you reverse those two. And then immediately after that, the first step in terms of getting all your ducks in a row is finding an advisor who's going to supervise this dissertation. Sorry, I'm going to say that a lot. I keep saying that because I've mostly advised graduate dissertations, and so I keep slipping and saying dissertations to thesis. So you need to find an advisor. An advisor should be a tenure-track faculty member in LS&A somewhere, or elsewhere at U of M is fine as well. You know, ideally they would be germane to your thesis topic so that they could offer most helpful advice. So they should generally be tenure track faculty member. You can, if you find the person that you want to advise your thesis and is willing to advise your thesis, if they're not a tenure track faculty member in a department, you could petition to the PICS director. That would be I at the moment. And you would petition to me for an exception to that rule. And we don't generally grant them, although I'll just tell you that I think the more important criterion than the tenure track aspect of that tenure track faculty is that they've done research and are ideally are research active, so that they can advise a research project. So I would be more inclined to lean on a PhD as the requirement than tenure track necessarily. So many of your lecturers, for instance, have PhDs, and they could be viable, in my mind. If there's a new director by next year, there shouldn't be, unless malfeasance or something. But so it would still be I. So those are the rules then.
So, a little confused. So you want someone tenure tracked or tenured?
Tenure track.
Or does it matter?
It doesn't. Like I said, so for practical purposes, the key distinction is that they be able to advise a research project, and so I take that to mean that the qualifications are that they, for instance, having done a PhD means that you've done a PhD dissertation and done your own research. Presumably, you should have some abilities to advise others how to do, having done yourself.
So if they have a PhD and they've done published research for like a while, they're good? Or they need to actively be doing research right now? Because I don't know if the person I picked is actively doing research this year or something.
Yeah, I'm not going to review them for whether I want to hire them to become U of M faculty.
I don't know how specific it is. There's a lot of rules here, Robert.
Yeah, there's going to be even more. They're coming. But so, and that could be the tricky part, finding the advisor. I'll just let you know that up front. So I would, if this is something that you really want to do, I would get on that part and start exploring how difficult that may be, or it might be very easy. I mean, all of the U of M faculty are very interested in both in research and in advising and in teaching, and the combination of those two things in advising a thesis is something they're very interested in. However, there's absolutely no compensation in any form that they get from advising a thesis. I mean, they get no credit with their department. They don't earn any goodwill with anyone. So they're doing it because they love it, and this is just sort of what they do as part of who they are. But that might mean that it's a little bit difficult, right? And I'm encouraging you to be understanding of that when you're looking to find folks. If you happen to find someone who's a sixth-year assistant professor, they might be a little preoccupied with their own tenure review, and they might be more difficult to secure for advisors. So just explore that rather early in your process is all I'm saying. Okay, so then you found an advisor, and you have an idea that that wakes you up in the morning, or anyway might motivate you to do a fair amount of work, because you're going to do a fair amount of work on it. So then you put together an application to the honors program, to the PICS honors program. That application is, as it says on the website, is due September 4th. So you know the time frame that you have here. So it's due the beginning of the next term, basically, right? And your part in that, in addition to securing the advisor, your part is a 2-page maximum, 1,000-word maximum description of your project, along with like sort of where you are in that project, which might be that this is where I am, I can describe it, right? Or it might be that you've got some work done on it already. But that's what I or the director of the PICS honors program, the instructor of 498, 499, that's what we'll be evaluating for entrance to the program. I say it that way because I am currently the instructor of 498, 499, and therefore the director of PICS, but also the director of the honors program. We may have a new person in that role by come next year. That's unknown at the moment. We're searching for someone to hire. take that role and some other roles in your department. So the 498, so when I say the 498, 499 instructor, that's who I mean, right? So they'll be evaluating your description of your project, and then the other thing you need is a letter from this advisor that just, basically the key point of that is that they're confirming that they're willing to advise you. So their letter can be very, very brief. It could be as short as, I am willing to serve as this advisor. That's the key thing. So you can let them know that. And they don't need to write a recommendation for you. They could, and I would be happy to receive a couple more sentences that are recommendations, right? But the primary thing is that they say that they're willing. And a transcript, of course. Okay. So you get together this application by the end of the summer, right? And yeah, so that occurs to me as I said that at the end of the summer. So you might want to, you probably will want to, if you're thinking about honors, start thinking about an advisor now, actually, since they might not be that easy to get in touch with over the summer. And so you might want to be doing that over this next month rather than after the year finishes. You can get the details, you send that to us electronically, of course. Then one other piece of information I think I had to share with you, no, two other kinds of information. So, okay, so next is 498, 499, what are they, how do they work on your transcript, etc. So they're classes, the 4 credits each term. So the 4 credits in the fall, 498, and 4 credits in the winter, 499. And they're the seminars in which you develop your theses together with the PICS thesis advisor, honors program advisor. As I say, that's currently myself. So what I've done with it is we started with the students came in and pitched their arguments to each other and worked through them, and we workshopped them that way in brief presentation format. And then we progressed from there towards sharing pieces of the writing of the thesis with each other, and again, workshop that together with us as a class. The next instructor, 498, 499, may do similarly, or it won't be too radically different from that. In terms of the logistics on that, so you will take 498, you'll enroll in 498, which you become able to do sometime in July, it says on the spreadsheet. Whenever it's posted, you can enroll in 498 if you like. So if you don't get into the honors program, you can drop 498 at that point and take a different course, because you will know whether you got in or not immediately at that first week. Or you can continue with 498, in which case it would be a semester's research paper writing course for you, basically. And you would submit the writing assignment at the end of that for your grade for that semester, and you get a grade for that course. International Studies 498, same as any other course you might have taken. Alternatively, right, you could, presume you get into the program, you would take the 498, be writing the materials that you would write or presenting and working in the class as you would. And then at the end of that semester, you'll get a Y, that's your letter grade, a Y, which means continuation. So Y is the abbreviation for continuation in some planet. I'm not sure why, but Y is the abbreviation for continuation, which means you don't get a grade for 498 yet. You continue on to 499, you finish 499, which concludes with your thesis. You would then get a grade for that thesis. And again, that would be by the 498, 499 instructor and your advisor, but the instructor would do the grading part of that. And that grade then becomes your grade for the 8 credits of 498, 499, right? You could at that point be done as well. Suppose you've failed to keep your advisor, the requirements your advisor had set about keeping them informed or delivering them materials or something like that, and you might find yourself then without an honors grading committee at that point, right? So you would instead have completed 498, right? Assuming that you did get a paper you just didn't get a paper, that you didn't meet the agreement that you had stipulated. So I'm not suggesting that the faculty member would pull out on you, right? That has never happened to my knowledge. But I'm aware of a case, for instance, where the faculty member said, "Now I want to be informed about what you're doing, keep in touch with me periodically, because the position I don't want to be in is hearing from you in late April or mid-April that your thesis is coming, and then I'm going to read a document I've never seen before in mid-April." The student did that. The advisor said, "I told you I wouldn't do that." So, and so that student wasn't able to complete honors. They were able to complete 498, 499, right? And they got credits and score for the, you know, as I or the grader in question judged the work. So that's another sort of thing that could develop. And I guess it's not the ideal way to tell you about the complications that may arise. What happens in the overwhelming majority of the cases, like almost every case with like one or two exceptions, is that you finish your honors thesis in great glory. And then you have a defense with your advisor and myself or the 498, 499 instructor. And the defense involves you highlighting the key things that you learned and discovered in your thesis, maybe raising some questions that you wanted to explore further or what the case might be, and of course fielding some questions and further discussion from your advisor and the instructor. It's a defense, but it's not like they're throwing the nastiest question they can possibly figure out at you, because that really isn't the end game here, right? You've been doing a lot of work and great experience and learning quite a lot. No, it's really much more of a collaborative continuation of the intellectual excitement. Is what happens with that. Okay, so then we grade it, right? And then the possible grades. Well, you get a letter grade for 498, 499, and then you get an honors judgment from the advisor and myself, or the 498, 499 instructor, and they may judge no honors, honors, high honors, or highest honors. That actually goes as a recommendation to LS&A, right? And LS&A, as far as I know, accepts our recommendation, assuming that you've fulfilled the requirements, which amount to 3.4 GPA, right? So basically, they could say, well, that's great, that's a high honors thesis, but you have a 3.3, so you cannot graduate with high honors. What happens in that case? That means you have a thesis, which you've completed, and that thesis indicates that it was a high honors thesis. You have a letter grade, presumably a good one since it was a high honors thesis, a letter grade for 498, 499, but your transcript doesn't say, you know, with honors.
But everything else still applies.
Right, cool. So if your GPA is, you know, in the vicinity of 3.4, and senior year could go poorly and bring it below 3.4, that could be a situation you would end up in. It does not mean that you can't complete the thesis. It does not mean that we can't congratulate you with marking that thesis as honors, high honors, or highest honors. But it will mean that your U of M transcript won't say with honors if that situation unfolds, right? I think that's everything I had to share, but so questions, yes, sir?
So I believe I saw in the course guide that it was 3 credits for 398, 399, but you said it's 4.
So go by what you saw in the course guide.
Okay.
My understanding, so it's 498 first of all.
Oh yeah,
498, 499.
Yeah.
Go by what you saw there. I thought it was 4 each, but
Okay.
whatever it says in WACS is right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Depending on our paper, I am wondering if could we do a thesis in the program in international studies, but have our workshop in a different department?
You have your honors workshop in a different
Yeah.
department? I don't know, we could talk about that. Yeah, we could. I'm inclined to say no, but we might be able to make an arrangement, right, where we I mean, in the same way that we can take we do take, right, most of the courses that you took to your international studies major were courses in other departments, and we approved them. There may be a way we can do the same thing with the honors seminar, right? So I don't know yet. Okay,
So I'll follow up with you.
Yeah,
to figure
yeah.
that out? Okay.
Follow up. That would be something we would make a discretionary decision about, and it might be. I'm certain we do not have a policy at the moment, so we would be making. So follow up with me after this question.
In terms of methodologies, does honors prefer to see qualitative work, quantitative work, a mixture of both, or is it pretty much up to what?
Yeah, so it's the last of those, right?
Okay.
So we'd like to see good work is what we'd
Okay.
like to see. But your advisor and the 498, 499 instructor would determine what's an appropriate set of methodologies for the questions that you want to explore.
So I'm currently a sophomore, but I'm studying abroad my entire junior year. So
Mhm.
would that at all interfere with my ability to do a senior honors thesis when I get back?
Nope. Not incorrect. As a matter of fact, we can make arrangements. I'm glad you raised that, because we can, international studies, of course, cares very deeply about academic and intellectual experiences and professional experiences abroad. So we have ways of making it work if you are abroad in your senior year during the thesis as well. I'm not saying that we can always make it work, but we can. So for instance, there's a thesis being written right now. The student was in Michigan and Washington, a program that run through the political science department. And the person with whom she was working in Washington essentially did the start of her thesis work while she was in Washington, and advised and guided her on that. And then she came and she took 499 here in the second semester and is writing a thesis. Looks like a really good one.
Okay.
I heard there's some way to receive funding for over the summer research,
Mhm.
considering the honors thesis program. So what's the lowdown on that one?
There's not a separate pool of funding for the honors theses scholars to travel, but we have all of the PICS study abroad, internship, research programs that are regularly available, but I know that I just looked at all those applications, so I think that, like, for this coming year, the deadlines, well, some of them are rolling, but some of these programs have deadlines, and I think the ones that have deadlines are passed for this coming summer. Look into that.
Are we able to get some sort of feedback on our research question and our methodology?
Mhm.
Like, for example, I don't want to think of a research question and without getting any feedback and then just submitting it
Right,
and
right,
getting
right.
a bad result. So.
That's a good point. So with your advisor, first of all, right? So you have a topic and an area, at least a topic with which you're going to begin, right? And then you're going to find some advisors. So I would actually, think about, as you're approaching the advisor, that's a key place where you'd start to get some feedback on appropriate ways of approaching the question. Maybe even a lot of times the very earliest kind of feedback you'll get will be about refining or redirecting or reshaping the question a little bit, right? Sometimes there's sort of, they say, oh, that's a great question, but maybe we're going to have to take a part of it and make it narrower and focus on this question, and then they'll say, we can do something like that. So I try to get that advice from your advisor early up, and then also, you're welcome to to seek advice from the 498, 499 honors director, which again, at the moment would be I. And I'm happy to receive these requests, and I will do my very best to get back to them. I don't want to commit to anything in terms of how quickly I can get back to it, but
Okay.
I'll certainly try. But the subject matter expert that presumably the advisors you have in mind are also key resources on that.
What would happen, not saying this would happen, hypothetically, you would say that, I have a high honors thesis, but my advisor disagrees
Mhm.
and says I don't have like a very polar recommendation. How does that get interpreted? I'd hope you'd have the final say in that circumstance, obviously, but I mean, is it the higher of the two?
Well, I'm not sure about that. No, we would have to, there is no provision for
Does that happen?
for a vote procedure. No, not usually.
Cool.
There's,
I'm sorry.
I mean, I'm not aware of any situation where it's very polarized in that regard. But and let me tell you a little bit more about why that doesn't arise. So it's not like, there shouldn't be anyway, it's not like sight unseen, myself, I'm a political economist, trained in quantitative research methods and economics, and I think like an economist, and that's the way I approach things. And let's say a thesis on some cultural impact of different literary device or something like that. It's not like we get to the day of the thesis defense and we've never seen it and we've never interacted on this before. So you don't end up with a thesis on which your advisors are that much in disagreement, either one or certainly not both are that much in disagreement with, right? So you don't get all the way to that end game with that much disagreement. If there's a bit of disagreement, then we are obliged to work it out and figure out where we want to end up. Because we don't have a procedure for ruling out ties, which is going to be, there's the two-person committee. So we don't have a procedure for working out ties, it's just negotiate or discuss. But you don't end up there with much agreement. I've never seen it happen.